Going to question 15 now. Let's start with the prompt. Which choice describes data in the graph that supports the claim being made by the researchers? And let's figure out what the researchers have to say. These economists investigated a variety of factors that influence voter turnout, using data that revealed whether respondents voted in the elections and how knowledgeable they were about politics. The researchers claim that the likelihood of voting is driven in part by voters' confidence in their assessments of candidates. Essentially, the more informed the voters are about politics, the more confident they are at evaluating whether the candidates share their views, and thus the more likely they are to vote. So we pretty much see two forms of confidence on this graph here. We see the strongly Republican and the strongly Democrat. So you get more confidence at the outsides of this graph than the inside, which makes sense because we see a dip in both graphs. There's less likelihood to vote for both based on the confidence in terms of being super Republican or super Democrat. And we're also seeing confidence in terms of some of the people being low information and some being high information. The low information people were less likely to vote all the time compared to their counterparts in the high information category, which are the darker bars. So now let's look at the answers. A says, at each point on the political orientation scale, the high information voters were more likely than low information voters to vote. Well, that's exactly what I said a moment ago, and so we'll keep that answer. B, only low information voters who identify as independents had a voting probability below 50%. So that one is indeed true. It's not false. But if we're deciding between answer choice A and B for now, I would stick with A because A is talking about a large amount of the data, all of the high information and all of the low information voters, versus B, which is talking about only one bar. So I would consider B to be a good wrong answer choice, at least so far. And C, the closer that low information voters are to the ends of the orientation scale, the more likely they were to vote. Well, that's also true. I pointed that out myself when I first looked at the data. But if you look back at the claim itself, it wasn't really focusing on how the highly Democratic or highly Republican voters were more likely to vote. It was only focusing on how if they're more informed, they're more confident and therefore more likely to vote. So the claim itself only focuses on the voters being more informed, which means that the fact of them being more Democratic or more Republican doesn't really matter so much, so we can get rid of C. And now going to answer choice D, high information voters were more likely to identify as strong Democrats or strong Republicans than low information voters were. We can get rid of that answer because it's not talking about their likelihood of voting, so that one is out, and the answer here is A.